and successfully growing the fishing community in the islands. It's one of the sectors that's bucked our depopulation trend. It accounts for over 20 full-time jobs. And so any threat to that is an enormous threat just to the well-being of our island economy and our community. And so this consultation coming out as it has with such sweeping sort of suggestions and so little nuance or dialogue initially with fishing communities has resulted in a lot of fear and I think a lot of anger as well, which you can tell by we've had our first protest song that we've had for quite a long time that came out by Skippinish, where there was a real strength of feeling, certainly across social media, about these proposals.
And you're saying there it supports 20 full-time jobs. Are there other jobs that are perhaps related to that industry?
There are a number of other jobs that are related to the fishing industry. So if you think about the drivers who drive the fish lorries who come in and take out the catch, we've got a tanker driver who does the fuel deliveries. There's this ongoing knock-on effect. We've got 25% of the kids 8 and under on the island are from fishing families. So if you lose those families, if those families decide to move elsewhere because they need to find an equivalent income, if you lose that number of children out of a school, then you lose a good chunk of the funding for the school. And so this ongoing knock-on effect happens and undermines the entire fabric of a community that is really quite small and fragile at the end of the day.
And many island communities already struggle, as you kind of alluded to there, with depopulation. Do you think proposals like these could make the future of many islands unviable?
I think it has the potential to make the future of islands unviable, yes. I mean, if you take the consultation at face value and the suggestions of what could be banned in Scottish inshore waters, then you are looking at one of the three main pillars of island economies just being knocked from under it. And this comes in this perfect storm, I think. We're talking about housing and second homes in islands. We've just had the announcement this week about council tax going up for second homes potentially, which is welcome in many respects. We've got the ferry. They always miss the ongoing ferry issues in the islands and those sort of infrastructure links. And we're still waiting, many people, for the final couple of miles for fibre connection for the internet. So if you take all of that together, we've got this perfect storm of islands communities feeling like they are second-class citizens, that they're not as important as urban centres, and then to take out, I guess, one of the industries where we still have the strongest Gaelic culture left, where you might hear Gaelic still spoken. That entire combination has resulted in, I think, in the pushback that you've seen.
There's been some suggestion that perhaps those in government, ministers, they're more focused on the central belt. They perhaps don't understand rural and island communities. Would you agree with that assessment?
I think so, sadly. I don't think it's the intention, but it is certainly the result. There's people out there saying that the government is trying to actively ruin island communities. I don't think that's the case, but I think it is a result of not having enough elected representatives from our really rural and island communities, and just a lack of understanding about how our communities operate and how everything is so interwoven. And one of the great frustrations, I think, particularly around this HPMA consultation, is that we see so much top-down suggestions, which are done in a way which are very hard to parse. I mean, just trying to read through that consultation and understand it and respond in a helpful way, it was incredibly inaccessible. And so the sort of top-down suggestions that come from government, the further you get away from the centre of power, the less concern or the less understanding there seems to be of how to communicate with communities and how to start an open dialogue and discussion. We all know that the seas need to be protected. There's not a fisherman in this country that's going to disagree with that, because they need to conserve stocks for future generations. But this consultation seemed to start from the assumption that that's not being done. There was no discussion about what is already being done and how sustainable fixed line creel fishing is, which is one of the most sustainable forms of fishing. So I think it's ignorance and maybe just a lack of understanding that the further you get from the central belt, the more the story changes, the more the dynamics change.
Obviously, the counter